Welcome to the number one podcast covering Michigan State basketball. The Final Four is not in the schedule. Join Rod and me, Eric, as we dive deep into the Spartans to get you prepared for every game. Subscribe today for in-depth recruiting updates and fantastic interviews with today's important college basketball personalities like Robbie Hummel.
Thanks for having me. I have listened to your guys' podcast numerous times on drives throughout any Midwestern Big Ten city. So I am big fans of your guys' work.
Jay Billis.
And next time, hey, if anybody in Michigan wants a December tea time, call me. You wimps won't show up, but I'll be there. I'll be there and play in the cold. And Izzo will be in front of the fire with hot chocolate.
Coaches Thomas Kelly.
No problem. Glad to be back, man. Glad to be back.
Mike Garland.
Just can't sit there and trade twos for threes. You can't do it. You're gonna lose. Coming down the stretch, you're gonna lose.
And more. You won't find better coverage of Spartan hoops than you will get here. For both the casual and hardcore fan, come along as we take you for a green and white ride. Hey everybody, it's Eric alongside Rod, here with another special guest, 6'11", 250-pound grad transfer center, Szymon Zapala. Szymon, thanks for joining us on the Final Four on the schedule.
Yeah, thank you for inviting me.
Absolutely. Would you say that's an accurate height and weight for you?
Yeah, it's all around those numbers, yeah.
Around the numbers. It's weird you don't introduce any other person except athletes and their weight and their height. No, you don't introduce your accountant that way or anything like that. So before we begin, a quick word of thanks to all of you who support the show via one-time gifts and on a recurring basis. You are what keeps the show going. Really appreciate you. Special thanks to Patreon supporters at the Bettine Cleves level. Bill Church, Brian O'Donnell, Michael Bosnick, and Chad Hickey. Draymond Green supporters, Adam Walzak, Dan Rankin, James Benton, Jim L., David Bream, Paul Marsh, Scott Driscoll, and Daniel Drynack, and all the Scott Skiles supporters at Patreon, as well as Rich Wagenheim, who I'd been erroneously referring to as Wagner, so I apologize, Rich, and Kenneth Cromet on Substack. If you appreciate the content, please go to our support page at finalfoursoontheschedule.com/support to reach the necessary links. Okay, Szymon, let's get rolling here. I guess, the obvious question is, tell us a little about your journey to the United States. Was college basketball ever on your radar? And so how did you end up at Utah State?
Yeah, so that journey is quite interesting because obviously when I was choosing the college, it was a COVID year. So it was a little bumpy because I couldn't visit, couldn't really do much. But I mean, it was on the radar. Not at first. When I was in high school, I was thinking about playing pro in Poland. But then it kind of sparked. Like whenever I was, I think 15, I got my first offer. It was Georgia Tech. Then Creighton showed up on the radar, and I remember I was thinking like, okay, that's very intriguing. That's interesting. I don't know the language. It was hard to even communicate with those coaches, but it was something I wanted to explore. And then I saw the culture that goes with it, like how the teams, how it looks and like how high level of basketball it is, and how much they put on development. And I was like, that's something I probably want to do. So then I just kept talking to coaches. Then COVID hit. It was a little unfortunate on my part because I couldn't see anything, but then a few coaches decided to fly out to Poland to see me. I talked to a few of them. Then we did like online Zoom tours of the campus. So it was a little weird. It was way different than it is now and it's been before. But yeah, I decided to choose Utah State just because of the connection I had with Coach Smith. I thought that's something I had to follow in that case. Because, you have to trust the coach. You can't even see the players. You have to fully put your trust in that person. So I thought that's I had something special, some special connection with Coach Smith, and I decided to choose Utah State. And their culture and how they go around their basketball program was also big. So I knew it's a place where I can develop, where I can. I have trust to coach, and that's how I ended up in Utah State. Obviously, he left after my freshman year. It was a coaching change. I decided to stay there, but yeah, then it was a little bumpy journey.
Yeah, and the one thing you mentioned is the language issue. So, I mean, I assume you spoke some English because you speak English far too well for someone who just to learn English when you're 18.
Yeah, I wouldn't say I knew. I mean, so we in Poland, like you take English class every year.
Right. Yeah.
That's a requirement. So I was taking those classes, but with the language, it's like if you don't actually use it, you're never going to learn. And I was at the level when I knew the grammar rules, but I had no idea how to speak. I had no idea what to like, how to listen. Like I was just thrown there, and I didn't know. I didn't have vocabulary. I didn't have grammar. I mean, I had grammar. I didn't have vocabulary, and I didn't know how to speak and how to listen. So it was like it was hard at first, but after 3 months, I learned the language, so it was easier then.
Pays to be young.
Well, that's the old immersion approach to learning a language. Makes sense. So now let's bring it forward to the present. Obviously, it's been I don't know, 2 months, 3 months since you committed to Michigan State. What about Michigan? Let's talk about that recruitment a little bit, because, and we discuss this all the time, you're seeing it firsthand. The portal recruiting experience has to be a very, very strange one. Maybe not for you because of the way you just described your recruitment coming to Utah State, but for most people, it's a very, very quickened pace compared to what they go through coming out of high school. They're not necessarily going on visits, or at least the same kind of visits, all of that. So can you walk us through, what was the first point you had contact from Michigan State? Maybe we should start there. Right. Okay. That's a very refreshing and candid answer, because we don't tend to hear that very often about the stress that the student athletes are going through when they have to find a place. Now you use the word, maybe not fully intentionally, but you use the word had to go into the portal. What led to your decision to go back into the portal this year? Because this was the second year in a row. You had been in the NCAA tournament last spring. It seemed like you were playing a decent amount. What led to your decision to go back into the portal?
I think the most important part was to play on a higher level and play for something more than a Big South Conference championship.
Gotcha.
I want to play for national championship, and that's the goal for this year. And I mean, that was the ultimate goal. That's what I want to do. And I think you're not going to get better, and you're not going to develop if you don't have a clear goal for yourself and for the team. And that's something we want to do here. And that's that was just, that's probably the most important part.
Yeah, and the interesting thing about the recruitment is, as fans, we're outside the program. Obviously, we have no inside information of what the program is doing, and so there's always a lot of concern. Like this from the outside, it looks like the Michigan State basketball team or the staff is not doing anything. Like there's maybe a need they feel like they have maybe at the 5 spot in your instance, but nothing's happening because they've not heard word of this sort of thing. So obviously, your recruitment was sort of not secretive, but it wasn't public, right? So, was that a decision that you guys talked about? They said, okay, we don't want this to come public. Can you just kind of keep it under wraps? Or was it just something that no one just bothered to say anything openly?
We didn't discuss it, but I know many programs keep recruiting kind of quiet just until the official visits. And, I made my decision like a week after official visit, or even less than that, I think a few days after that.
Right.
So yeah, most colleges do it that way just because they don't want to, spike rumors or anything like that. So, yeah, that's the way I would.
Yeah, no, that makes sense, and this is always a concern from fans. Is like again, there's impression that nothing's happening, and then there's nothing going on, and it turns out there's actually stuff going on. So it's not always the things that are public that are happening. There are obviously things that happen privately.
And the other thing too is that I think the portal recruitments tend to be very different in terms of the way they're covered by media as opposed to high school recruiting. It does seem to more frequently be situations like yours where to fans it seems to come like out of the blue that, oh, this guy's committing to Michigan State. We didn't even know they were interested in him. And you rarely get that with high school recruitment. So it is a little bit of a different thing. I think it's probably the abbreviated process that leads to it too. There's just not enough time for people to find out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that was the case in Michigan State, but obviously you recruit more than one person. And
Sure.
You want to tell people, oh, you're going to be now number 2 or number 3. You cannot, because like if that person commits somewhere else, then you're stuck with nothing. So you commit multiple people, and probably that's why you don't want to share it publicly, because then those people can find out who else is on the radar.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, that makes sense. And that with high school recruitment, obviously, it's a long process. You're visiting players, so it's hard to keep it private because when you're watching someone play play a game in high school or something, obviously people are going to notice Coach Izzo out in the stands.
Yeah,
and so you can't make it secret. And also it's so compressed because it's only a couple of weeks. You have to do the whole transfer. The portal is people come and go pretty quickly. So moving on, yeah, it's interesting. I guess with you were mentioning you'd say that you guys felt like you fit like a glove as far as your goals for the year. So what do you see your role as going at Michigan State this next season? And those goals, what are those goals for you aside from just generally developing to be a better player?
Long story short, because that would have been.
We have plenty of time.
Yeah. Obviously, coach saw some potential in me that I can still develop. Besides that, I'm an older player. I'm a 5th-year senior, so it's I'm pretty old for college, but no, I can. We've been talking about is like that my presence on the rim is like the way I can score behind with the back of the basket is just something that this team needed for next year, and obviously I bring a lot of size with me, but on the other side I'm still working on my shot. I'm sorry. I'm still working on my shot, and that's something we really want to develop over this summer that can put us even in a better position next year. And that's something I've been working on since my first college day, and I really wanted to put into the game situations. Big South, when I was in Longwood, we tried to do it, but in Big South, I was too big of a target to be outside of the rim. To be out, I just said to be inside there because that's where I was the most efficient. But I still took a few outside shots. I think coming to this level, it's going to be crucial for me to just to develop more in that way. So like I said, the goal is to play for a national championship this year. And I just have to do my part to get there.
So when you say outside shot, are you talking about like setting a screen outside the 3-point line and shooting a three, or are you talking about like 12-footers inside?
Well, pick and pass threes, transit, like, just more threes.
Then turning to, or maybe a little more detail about your experience at Michigan State thus far. We understand you've been on campus maybe about a month, maybe a little longer than that. Let's start with your impressions of Coach Izzo, maybe during the recruitment and now that you've been on campus a little bit. What's he been like? What are your impressions of him?
I think he's been absolutely amazing. Great coach, even great person. So it's you can feel his presence. He knows exactly what he's doing. I don't even know how to better describe it. He's a great coach, even better person.
Right. And then let's talk a little bit about your teammates. You had mentioned that one of the main motivators behind you choosing to transfer to Michigan State was going up a level. And so I assume you haven't, certainly since you've been in the United States, you haven't played with as much talent as you're playing with right now. Tell us a little bit about the team. It may be the things that fans don't see as much, which is the stuff that happens behind the scenes. Let's start with that. You've been on campus for about a month. Was the process to get to know everybody fairly easy? Do you feel like the group has good chemistry together?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, that's also the part why I chose Michigan State. It's because I believe that culture brings way more than just individuals. And in this case, like when I was talking to coaches and I was trying to find out what Michigan State is about inside, it was something that fit so well with me that I just couldn't pass on, because the culture you bring in to the program, the culture you build over the years, kind of allows people to fit in way better and connect on a different level. So when I heard like how things go here, I just want to be here. And then once I got to the campus, like everything turned out to be completely true. And I mean, I got along with all the teammates really well right away. They welcomed me to family very easily. I mean, we have great connections, and everyone feels like there's a brother connection. So I mean, it's amazing, great teammates. What people don't see behind the scene, I mean, how much everyone works. We all know what's the goal for this year, and it just doesn't come easily. So we're in the gym day in, day out, working on our game. I mean, that's probably what people don't see, but that's the reality. Like, you have to do that to get better and to play on that level.
Which coach do you work with the most?
Coach Wojcik.
So I guess tell us a little bit, just going back to your background. So you grew up in Poland. Where in Poland did you grow up, and what was it? What was your town like? Was it big? Was it small?
Going back to the last question, Coach Wojcik, Coach Sadi too.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. What was my hometown? It's a small town, close to Krakow. It's Oświęcim. It's also known as for the Auschwitz concentration camp. If someone knows history, that's a very infamous place. But it's a small town, very odd visitors throughout the year, but yeah, very small town. But
yeah, Rod has some experience in Poland, so he's. Were you around that area, Rod?
Yes, I actually 2 years ago was in Krakow, and we did visit Auschwitz as well. So I have been in that area. Yeah.
And when did you start playing basketball? Was this something that, I mean, I assume most players are athletic, and so they've been playing sports for a long time. But when did you pick up basketball? Were you start getting taller, or what was it that led you to the sport?
So I started playing ice hockey when I was in elementary school.
Okay.
Then I switched to basketball when I was 14. So that was kind of bad. My coach picked me, like my soon-to-be future coach. From that, he was a middle school basketball coach, and he was like, "Why are you playing ice hockey? You're just so tall. Just come play basketball." And there was a long conversations with that, and I was like, "Well, might as well try." Then I fell in love with the sport. I just absolutely loved it and wanted to stay with it.
And is basketball? I mean, I guess I don't think of Poland for ice hockey either. Or what's the bigger sport? Is it soccer, basketball? What are the sports was the kids play?
Right now, it's definitely soccer, but you can see that soccer is on a decline. Our basketball is on an increase, like right now. So hopefully soon enough it's going to be basketball, but soccer is pretty big there. Basketball is not as big, but it's getting bigger.
Growing up, I mean, if basketball wasn't like your first love, I mean, did you watch a lot of basketball? Like certain players that you might have followed? And I don't know if the NBA is real big in Poland.
I mean, we had NBA player back in the day when I was a youngest. Well, we still have now, but there was Marcin Gortat.
Yep.
Funny, I love doing his screen. So I don't know if you ever heard of Gortat's screen, but I love doing that. Do it a lot. But I mean, yeah, once I started playing basketball, like I got in love with it. I fell in love with it, so I started watching more. And yeah, I mean, I don't know if I had favorite play growing up. I was just kind of watching to learn, watching to experience it, and just love the game. So, but I don't think I have favorite play growing up.
And I guess I don't know, Rod. Do you know what that screen is? I have no idea.
I know he was a very physical player. I remember that. I don't remember specifically the screen.
It's you can Google it. It's after you're setting a pick and roll screen, kind of bump into big men, so the guard can have a bit like a lane to the basket. It's sort of illegal now in NCAA. The residents don't tend to call it still, so you can use a
little bit of movement, maybe.
It's because technically on the pick and roll, the big man becomes the primary defender. You can't screen the primary defender while moving, but so little refs realize it that you have to have a book to actually see it, and you have to have way more time than you have in a game to call it. So, I've never seen anyone calling it, but yeah.
Gotcha.
It's sort of like a little nudge, right? You just kind of give them a little extra push to throw them off.
So yeah, you can call it that way. Yeah. Then I dump it out of the way, so the guard can just go into the hoop. But yeah.
Interesting. Well, thanks so much for coming on the show. We want to remind everyone to check out our sponsors, the Brothers of Just Gutters. Those of you who need gutter work in the state of Michigan, you can't do better than the brothers. They will take care of replacing, repairing, or cleaning them out, put leaf guards on, or maybe even the under ceiling you can put underneath your deck. They do that as well. Almost adds an extra room to your house. Also, speaking to Szymon, is we have our squeegee squad at Grand Rapids. Someone cleans the glass, and every game we decide we predict who's going to have the most rebounds for the team. So you're going to be in the mix now. I don't know. It's always tricky for Michigan State to figure out. So we'll have to see. I assume that's one of the reasons they brought you in too, to clean the glass a little bit for the team. So you can check out the Squeegee Squad at Grand Rapids. Also, Nudge Printing at nudgeprinting.com, and Christian Brothers Automotive, where you can get it $40 off an oil change. You can find all details to those things at our support page at the Final Four on schedule.com/support. Szymon Zapala, thanks so much for coming on the show, and we really appreciate it.
Yeah, of course. Thank you so much. It was really nice talking to you.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll be by, and after this recording that comes out, I'll be actually there before then. I'll be at the Moneyball, so I'll get a chance to see you guys in person. So until next time, the Final Four is on the schedule. Go Green.
Bye-bye.
There you go.
They got that to you quick.